Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sprint 223 review. This was a normal 2-week sprint ending on October 16th. Let's get started. I'll start with the overview, Jeffrey on the UI, Adam on providers, and Joe on the platform. As you can see, this is kind of a normal sprint with 63 PRs merged this sprint, and an even split between bugs and enhancements. And over to Jeffrey on the UI.
In the sprint, we merged a total of 3 bug fixes into the UI Classic repository. I can explain about them in the following slides. In this PR, Keenan increased the length of the description field from 50 to 255 in the alert set form page. This was done to get the pen test fixed. Next slide. Gilbert had fixed the missing translation for the chargeback assignments title on the overview chargeback assignment page in the storage tab. Next slide. This is another translation PR from Gilbert fixing the button labels in the overview optimization pages. Next slide. That's all from the UI side. Over to Adam.
Thanks, Jeffrey. For core this sprint, we added a number of provider specs for the pause and resume tests that were added to core last sprint. Got about half of them covered, and we hope to get more of them done in the next sprint. For Lenovo, we fixed a bug with verify credentials for an existing EMS, so you were able to save a new provider, but if you wanted to edit the provider, it was not working properly. It wasn't loading the endpoints correctly. For Oracle Cloud, the SDK introduced a breaking API change in a minor version that we happily picked up automatically, which was causing the refresh to fail. So we fixed that up and also locked down the Oracle Cloud gem to just patch versions after discussions with their maintainer. Redfish, we fixed issues with the Redfish simulator missing one of the APIs that we use, and we were assuming was present. So that was also causing the refresh to fail. If you're looking for a physical server to test with, actually the Redfish simulator is really cool. So you should check it out. And now you'll be able to do a refresh with it. Next slide. For workflows, Jason added the ability to pass a service account that will be used for running the workflow on Kubernetes so that it can have an image pull secret. And we also fixed task and output error handling by pulling in a newer version of the Flow gem. And for Flow, Jason prefixed the pod names with a Flow dash prefix so that they'll be sorted easily in the output for the pod list. Keenan added the exit status for the Flow command line tool to match the workflow status. So if the workflow succeeded, it'll be 0. And if the workflow failed, it'll return 1 to the command line. We fixed an issue where if the context input is a string, it wasn't being JSON parsed for all of the states, and so it was causing some of them to fail. We changed the task failure to mark the workflow as failed as opposed to raise an exception. This was causing issues with the status not being updated properly because an unhandled exception was being raised, and so it was left as running, where now it'll be just marked as failed and completed. Keenan added a task retrier, incremental backoff, and wait timeout handling for async operations. We fixed output error handling if there's other lines in standard out and standard error. Essentially, we were assuming that all output on those buses were considered output. Now we require that the last line be properly formatted JSON, and everything else will be considered as logging. And Keenan also added cause path and error path to the failed task to improve our handling of the ASL spec. So we were missing those, even though the state was supposed to have it. And that is it for providers. Over to Joe.
Thanks, Adam. For platform enhancements and improvements, Brandon set the automation job service account environment variable for the new automation worker. Keenan added type when defining a deprecated attribute. Jason added block support in class hierarchy for the purpose of custom formatting. And I added Ruby 3.1 support in both schema and ManageIQ password, primarily around the YAML load default changes in Psych 4. Next slide. For platform bugs, Nassar added a guard check that the DQ method isn't DRB in EMS event add queue. In RPM build, Brandon added a sensible default value for the git ref if it's not provided. Due to the default changes in YAML load in Psych 4, I temporarily locked down to Psych versions prior to 4.0. Brandon fixed some bugs around the new automation role in Podified. That's it for the platform. Next slide.
Cool. So just a minor change, not change to the API, a minor enhancement to the API, where instead of a custom parser, we deleted all that code and are just using a regular expression. To ensure that that was working correctly, we added tests for every single route to make sure that it was working through. On to Jason for the rest.
And that's it for the Sprint 223 review. Our next Sprint 224 review will be on November 1st at the usual place and time. And as always, I'd like to thank all the presenters today, all the contributors, and our community. Thanks.